Whew, prepare yourself for this because I might be going on a big rant right here, which I don't really do much, but we're going to talk about WrestleMania 34 and why it was the most poorly booked WrestleMania in WWE history. And I'm not even saying this WrestleMania had like unlimited potential, but I mean, every wrong decision you could possibly think of literally happened on this show, and it was a crime, and it still is a crime. WrestleMania 34 is one of the top 3 worst WrestleManias in WWE history, and I will die on that hill. But of course, before we start, you already know what to do. Please make sure to subscribe, like, share, comment below, turn on the notifications to be updated with all pro wrestling content right here on this channel, and to be updated when we go live every Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time Zone for the No Name Wrestling Podcast. What are you doing back here? Hey, anything you want to say about WrestleMania 34? Nah, he good. He don't got nothing to say about WrestleMania 34 because there's nothing good to say about WrestleMania 34. Okay, I take that back. There are actually 2 good matches on this show that I gotta give respect to. The opening match for the Intercontinental Championship, Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor versus The Miz. That was a banger. Very good opening match for that show. Very good triple threat match. And I think Seth Rollins was a pretty good IC champion in 2018 as well. And to some people's surprise, Ronda Rousey's debut match, that stole the show. That was match of the night. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. That was elite, man. That's probably maybe the best debut match I think I've ever seen somebody have in WWE history, with very high expectations. Like, there was a lot of pressure on Ronda Rousey's shoulders for that match, and she delivered, man. They delivered that night, man. That was a very, very good debut match. Actually, you know what? Take that back, too. I keep retracting my statements. There's actually something else great about WrestleMania 34, and that was the WrestleMania stage. I mean, WrestleMania 34 stage was beautiful. That is one of the best WrestleMania stages, to me, of all time. That was a very good stage, but it pisses me off because that elite stage is attached to a very bad WrestleMania. First off, one match that I was really looking forward to was on the pre-show, and that was Cedric Alexander versus Mustafa Ali for the Cruiserweight Championship. A good match, but man, that would have very, very, very much benefited to be on the regular show instead of the pre-show, man. That really disappointed me, so that gets taxed as well. Let's talk about Charlotte versus Asuka. Now, my issue with this match, first off, this was a really good match as well, but my issue with this match is not Charlotte winning. And that may be a shock to some people because Asuka, yeah, she was undefeated on a warpath. She had to lose at some point, though. And whoever beat Asuka really needed somebody, you know, to be with strong credibility and somebody who had a very strong resume to be believable enough to take down somebody like Asuka worthy, right? Now, Charlotte Flair probably didn't need that win. That could have went to somebody else to maybe help, you know, build in the, you know, WWE Women's Division at that time frame. I get that, but Charlotte Flair is a legend, and she was one of the top stars back then for the women's division, so her beating Asuka was believable. I didn't hate that. What I hated is what they did with Asuka after WrestleMania, because how does she go from losing to somebody like Charlotte Flair, who has unlimited credibility, to losing to Carmella? At 2 pay-per-views, might I add you. 2 pay-per-views. Carmella, I get cashed in to become women's champion, but you don't feed Asuka to Carmella. Out of all people, and that's no disrespect to Carmella, man. Like, I know she was just doing her job. Nothing against her. I was actually happy she cast in, and I was happy for Carmella to get that push. But Asuka did not need to get fed to Carmella. No. That was the wrong thing to do because Carmella, unfortunately for her, she was not credible or even remotely close believable enough to beat somebody like Asuka around that time frame. So in hindsight, it was what they did with Asuka after that Charlotte loss. Like, her losing to Charlotte at WrestleMania, I can get past that. As long as you build, you know, and get Asuka back up to where she is at that level to where she belongs. But nope, she gets fed to Carmella, and then her steam died down a lot, even though she was still winning championships and was still succeeding, you know, quite often. But she never felt, you know, remotely as dominant, and her aura just never felt the same. I would even argue it still hasn't even recovered still to this day. What about that Fatal 4 match for the U.S. title, man? Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal, Rusev, and Bobby Roode. And the issue with this, they didn't have Rusev win. Rusev was like one of the hottest things in the company. WWE had a strange issue. For some reason, only with certain people though, not everybody, but with certain people, that when people got over themselves and they got really popular among the fans, they for some reason just wouldn't pull the trigger. Not put a title on them, have them lose countless of credible matches that would continue to build them up to make them, you know, bigger on the roster for WWE's brand. For some reason, they did that with Rusev. Like, they just did not want to capitalize on the Rusev Day momentum. Him winning the U.S. Championship at that WrestleMania was the correct thing. And they fumbled that tremendously, bro. Like, they never even put a title on the Rusev Day, bro. They never even pushed him to his limits where he could have been solidified as maybe a main event guy, or at least a very good mid-card guy for them. No, it didn't even matter, bro. He's selling all those t-shirts with Rusev Day on it and everything, but for some reason, he can't win a Fatal 4-Way match at WrestleMania with the U.S. Championship on the line when WWE knew majority of the people wanted Rusev to win that match. What about the Bludgeon Brothers versus the Usos and the New Day? My main issue with this was like it was a squash match. This match was like, 5-6 minutes? This could have been a really good tag team match for the show. And the Bludgeon Brothers still could have looked strong in this, having a dominant victory at the end. But the Usos, the New Day, two of the best teams you have in WWE, especially at that time frame. They were the top two teams at that time. You want the Bludgeon Brothers to win to get on that level, I'm cool with that. But at least have a competitive match where, that could have been like a really good tag team match for that WrestleMania. Where do I start with Undertaker and John Cena? This pissed me off to the fullest, man, because how do you have Cena and Taker in a literal squash match that was like 2 minutes? How do you have a squash match between two guys we've been waiting to fight at WrestleMania just once? Just once. Granted, Undertaker was old past his prime. John Cena was a lot older, already had one foot out the door to Hollywood. It was exiting the Super Cena days. I get that. The match definitely would have been bigger and better if it was during Taker's prime when the streak was still alive and during Super Cena days, but we were getting it at WrestleMania 34. It was still something we had wanted to see, and the match still could have been really, really good, even knowing if you watched the Last Ride documentary, Undertaker was probably in the best shape he had been in a long time, so he could actually go in the ring and do something decent in the ring to put on a very good, entertaining match, and Cena could still go in the ring at a high level at that time as well, but you give us a squash match? What? And Undertaker confirmed that Cena and Vince both approved it. Why? Just because Cena was taunting and calling out Undertaker for months doesn't mean we get a squash match. No. Especially with old man Taker. No disrespect to Taker, but Undertaker at that time is nowhere even remotely believable enough to squash somebody like John Cena. No, I can't believe that in any story aspect. No story aspect at that time in 2018 can I believe Undertaker is squashing somebody like a John Cena. No, man. Undertaker past his prime. No, bro. No, bro. Like, that's something that I can never get over. They know we waited for that match for years to happen at WrestleMania. We wanted it so badly. So badly. Most of us wanted it so badly, and we finally got it. Only for it to be a squash match that will forever live in history as a squash match. Man, when you thought it couldn't get any worse. When you thought the decisions for this WrestleMania just couldn't get any worse. We get AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Probably the most hyped up and anticipated match on the show. Now, granted, yes, I know this match stuck up the joint. It wasn't as great or as hyped up as most of us thought it was, building up to be. Especially if you watched the match at Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome, right? Like, this match definitely stuck up the joint. It wasn't as great as, most of us wanted it to be. I get that, but that wasn't even the most depressing thing about this. Remember what I talked about earlier about Rusev Day, about WWE for some reason around this particular time frame, not pulling the trigger and capitalizing on certain people's momentum? They did the same thing with Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke sunk right down to the bottom of the ocean on that same boat that Rusev was on. My gosh, Shinsuke Nakamura was easily one of the hottest baby faces in WWE in 2018 at that time. He was managed to recover from losing to Jinder Mahal in 2017 in 2 WWE Championship matches to winning the Royal Rumble, giving us the match we all wanted to see. Granted, like I said, the match wasn't as great. All they had to do, though, was have Shinsuke win. And y'all can miss me with the whole English thing, man. I ain't trying to hear none of that. I'm not hearing it, bro. I don't care if his English isn't as great as, some people want it to be. Like, if you saw what Triple H was doing with him in NXT, why couldn't Vince McMahon do the same thing with him on the main roster when Shinsuke was at his most popular? Shinsuke Nakamura in NXT, his English wasn't very, very great. He could speak English a little bit, but it still was the same on the main roster. But Triple H knew how to use him to present him very well, where he still got very, very popular, and he was still one of the most over guys in the company. Why couldn't they do the same with the main roster? There's no excuse for that. I ain't trying to hear that English stuff. Not only did they have Shinsuke lose this match, but they had him turn heel afterwards when he was one of the most over guys in the company. Turned heel for what? only to lose to AJ Styles in multiple WWE Championship matches after that, and then his team momentum died down tremendously. He's never recovered ever since. He's never been as popular, as over. His aura has died down so much. Shinsuke Nakamura may never ever be able to go up to the top of that ladder again and get to where he, was at when it comes to his popularity and the fans caring about him the most. Gosh, and when you thought it couldn't get any worse, how does this keep getting worse when you thought it couldn't get any worse? Braun Strowman, another guy. Ooh, don't get me started on Braun Strowman, boy. They fumbled Braun Strowman so mad, bro. Ooh, man, that. Braun Strowman was easily the best big man they had in WWE. He could have went down as one of the greatest big men of all time. Nobody can tell me otherwise. 2017, they should have had him beat Brock Lesnar, no mercy. They failed, didn't do that. Okay. Didn't really affect Braun Strowman, though, because Braun Strowman's popularity momentum was still pretty much there. Going into 2018, he still had really good fan reactions, and he was still presented as a dominant threat. So, okay, you know what? He's not completely fumbled yet. He's on that ship that's sinking to the bottom of the ocean, but it's still got a little life in it. It's still got a little life in it. Going into WrestleMania, this man is one of your most over superstars on the roster. Mind you, before WrestleMania, he had that Elimination Chamber match where he dominated every single person and eliminated everybody besides one person, and it was the one guy that majority of the fans did not want to win, and that was Roman Reigns. But of course, Roman Reigns had to win and go on to WrestleMania, which we're going to get into after this. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that match as well. Braun Strowman is one of the most over and most popular guys on that roster, and what's the best thing you have for him at WrestleMania? The biggest show of the year, the grandest stage of them all. What's the best thing you have for Braun Strowman at WrestleMania 34 to do? Not a singles match for a mid-card championship, not a big-time money match against a legend. No, none of that. I would even accepted a Battle Royal win. If they put the Andre Battle Royal on WrestleMania, I would have accepted that over what we got. Because what did they do? They had Braun Strowman in a tag team match fighting The Bar, who was one of the best tag teams in WWE at the time. A very good tag team. Love Sheamus and Cesaro together. For the tag team titles, has a mystery partner. You're thinking, okay, who's going to team up with Braun Strowman? And they're Braun Strowman's a force by himself. He really doesn't need a partner. He really shouldn't even be in a tag team at this time anyway. But okay, who's this mystery partner going to be? Now, even if they did a handicap match, I would have been cool with that. If Braun Strowman by himself won the tag team titles, I would have accepted that. But what did they do? Nope. They're going into the crowd. I need a tag team partner. Who's going to be my tag team partner? And who? Oh my gosh. Who teams up with Braun Strowman? 10-year-old child named Nicholas. Now, granted, if I was that 10-year-old kid, I would have been, living my dream. I would have never forgot that, moment. I'm sure Nicholas has never forgot that moment. I'm sure he'll forever remember that moment. It's great for him. But from a storyline booking perspective, nobody was trying to see that. Braun Strowman is teaming up with the kid at WrestleMania. It's the best thing you got for him at WrestleMania. It's a team up with the child and to win the tag team titles, only to give them up. They had to give them up the next day on Raw because this child can't defend the titles. He can't compete in the ring. He got schooled the next day, bro. What are they doing? What are we really doing at this time? He gave up the tag team titles after winning it. They took it off The Bar, who was one of the best tag teams at that time, to give it to Braun Strowman and a child, just for them to give it up the next night on Raw. Meaningless win. Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh. I don't understand this company around this time frame. And it keeps getting worse. Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns is the main event of this WrestleMania. These are the two guys in the company. The two guys in the company that majority of the fans really, really despise around this time, just either based off their booking or their presentation alone. Brock Lesnar had been champion for so long at this point, but it wasn't like the Roman Reigns part-time champion schedule. Brock Lesnar was barely involved in any good storylines. It was barely even having really good matches at this time. So his championship run was stale. It was bad. It was time to move on from it. But WWE, they were just so hell-bent on this babyface big dog Roman Reigns working. They wanted Roman Reigns so badly to be that babyface John Cena so badly. What Cody Rhodes is right now, they wanted Roman Reigns to be that so badly. And it was failing tremendously because the fans refused to accept it. But no matter how many times the fans rejected it, WWE told us, we don't care. We don't care. We don't care how many times you booed this man. You're going to accept Roman Reigns, whether you like it or not, as our top babyface. We get the second match at WrestleMania between Roman and Brock in the main event. The match that should never happen on the show and definitely shouldn't have been the main event. It gets time for the main event. Nobody's really caring. Nobody's reacting to this. Nobody wants to see this match. Oh my gosh. And what happens during this match, bro? I'll never forget it. This is one of the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. Top 5 worst WrestleMania main events I've ever seen. Not only was it boring, it was frustrating and disappointing, but they had Roman Reigns get hit with 5 F5s in a row. I can't make this up. 5 F5s in a row, and somehow he still kicks out. Mind you, when Brock Lesnar fought guys like Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman, he hit them with 1 F5. It took 1 F5 to beat those guys. 2 guys on the roster that were built up to be just as dominant as Brock Lesnar and were very credible threats to be believable to beat Brock Lesnar at that time and would have been more accepting by the fans to beat Brock Lesnar than Roman Reigns. But they got to make Roman Reigns look so good around this time. He gets hit with 5 F5s in a row. And then Brock Lesnar makes him bleed. And even though Brock Lesnar made Roman Reigns bleed, the fans still didn't care. They don't even use blood in WWE around this time frame. Roman Reigns is busted open in the ring. Legit. Blood all over his face. Nobody's still caring. Nobody cares. Nobody cares at all. Then it looks like Roman Reigns is, making the comeback, and we're all pretty much expecting Roman Reigns to win because we know he's like the golden goose at this point. So we're like, all right, let's get it over with. We know Roman Reigns is winning. Just give him the championship already. But then what happens? He loses. He doesn't even win the match, and they have to stretch out this Lesnar and Roman Reigns feud even further, which nobody wanted, bro. Like, we did not want this. We don't need these two fighting each other. We didn't want to see it. But WWE was just so hell-bent on giving us this match and making us believe that Roman Reigns was that top babyface that we needed in our lives. Granted, I don't even hate Roman Reigns. Never disliked Roman Reigns. Didn't even dislike him. I was still a fan of him at that time frame. But his booking around this time was just, it was insufferable. Like, I understood why some people didn't like him because they were force-feeding him and trying to make him play a gimmick that just didn't fit his image. And WWE was trying so hard to make the fans accept Roman Reigns as this. When we didn't want him as this. We wanted him as Tribal Chief. He could have been Tribal Chief years and years ago if WWE just let Roman Reigns kind of be more open to his own character and know to what he was doing. Take the handcuffs off this man, but they were just so hell-bent on making him that next babyface John Cena. And this turned out to be one of the worst WrestleMania main events I've ever seen, just based off everything they did with the booking, the build, the 2 people involved. Nobody truly remotely cared. There may have been a 5% of the world's population that really cared about this. Now, there are 2 other matches I didn't talk about that really didn't affect me or bother me as much. One of them is Daniel Bryan's comeback teaming up with Shane McMahon to face Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. That was cool. Didn't really have an issue with that. And, Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss, the whole bully storyline, I guess. I mean, it was okay. I wouldn't say it was insufferable. I wouldn't say it was terrible. It was okay at best. I didn't really have too many issues with that. But everything else, Braun Strowman teaming up with the Child, Undertaker squash match with Cena, Shinsuke not winning, Asuka, what they did with her afterwards, and her losing to Charlotte, that really hurt her long term, and the squash match with the Bludgeon Brothers and the Usos and oh my gosh, bro. Cedric and Ali not being on the main show, like, there's no way. I refuse to believe, because WWE has this motto where it's like every WrestleMania has to be the best WrestleMania possible every year, right? I refuse to believe they sat down in the creative room and said, okay, we got to come up with the booking and everything to think of how to make this WrestleMania as great as possible to make the fans happy. There's no way they sat down in the creative room and came up with all the scenarios they did and thought this WrestleMania was going to be fire. No way. I wish there was a way we could time travel where I can build a time machine and go back in time and go back to 2018 and just remove myself, to have this memory of watching WrestleMania 34 live, because that was a waste of my time. I wish I could get that time back, but I can't. Remember that time machine they had in SpongeBob when Squidward was traveling, all over the place and went back to like prehistoric days? I need that time machine. So I need to find that so I can go back to 2018 and just remove 2018, WrestleMania 34 from my memory. Whew, man, that was my little rant right there. I'm over here sweating and stuff. Golly, man, you know what, though? It's good to get some anger out sometimes. It's good to always rant about some things that we don't like, the things that bother us. And WrestleMania 34, it bothers me. It does. It genuinely does, and it will forever bother me. But that's okay. That's okay. You know what? I can find ways to come to peace and heal long term, man. And if you like this video, please make sure to check out other videos right here on the channel that you could watch that are definitely wrestling related. And always make sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment below, man. Turn on the notification to be updated and be on the lookout for more videos that I upload right here in the future. Side note, if you genuinely like WrestleMania 34 or love this WrestleMania, you might be a psychopath.